Hello. Been a few days. Things are changing. So, what's new, right? I'm sure they're changing for you too. I'm not the lone stranger here. All right. Um, in just re-listening to the Crossing the Event Horizon DVDs that Nassim Haramein put out some years ago, I ran across a couple of really neat pieces of information that correlate and integrate so nicely with um, the way I see things. Or with some of that, I mean, geez, words are so inadequate. Okay, so once upon a time, I did a video where I postulated that there is no night the way we perceive it. It's not possible based on science as we understand it today. Now, just like each atom is 99.99999% empty, and maybe more. Maybe there's a few more nines there. I don't know. I round it down to 5. It's empty. And so, as a result of that, the calculation is that all of the mass of the typical human body fits in a thimble and fills it about half full. That's how much solid substance is in your body there. It all fits in a thimble. How interesting, huh? Pretty good evidence for a virtual reality here, my hologram. Okay. Now, I said there could be no night. And I know that sounds crazy, but so does the fact that your body's solid substance fits in a thimble, and yet it's, this is proven. There's a big difference between proof and evidence. Proof is pretty rigidly structured. Most things are just evidence. Okay, so let's look at the solar system. The little models that we may have seen in high school or college of the moving solar system are not at all to scale. And, to make something like that feasibly, they couldn't be. Well, 1,000,000 Earths would fit in the sun. 1,000,000 Earths. So the sun is 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth. So put that to scale, and then do the distances right and everything. And it's just, we've never seen what it really, really is. The sun takes up 99.8% of the mass of the solar system. So all the planets put together, including the big boys, Jupiter and Saturn, is only 0.2% of the mass of the solar system. Earth, Mars, Moon, Venus, all that, Mercury, the head of a pin, just really small. All right, now, and I'll put some pictures in this video to show the relative sizes. Um, those things are fun to play with. All right, so we have a little tiny marble of an Earth next to one of those great big gym balls that people can get their whole body on top of. I mean, the relative size is ridiculous. So just imagine a really, really, really huge sun. And then put the Earth out there as a little tiny itty bitty thing. a grape, you know, and the other planets. Now, turn the sun on, have it start emitting light, and have the Earth rotating around. You've got to realize that the Earth, being as small as it is, that the sun shines right around it. The sun shines 24/7. I mean, we get the impression that it only shines part-time because of the rotation of the Earth, but that's nonsense. I don't care if it's midnight, the sun still shines. That being the case, and Earth being so minuscule, if you do the mental experiment, you see that night as we experience it, where we look out and the whole sky is quite black and you can see a tremendous range of stars and galaxies and star systems out there against the black backdrop, that doesn't make sense. The sun is still shining. The sun did not stop shining. And so in my earlier video, I didn't propose any solution. I just said it's not possible. With physics and science as we understand it, with the simple light, distances, relative sizes, and the mechanics of it, if you have something that bright and that big shining its radiance on something as small and actually as close to the sun as we are, we're only the third planet out, then you don't have the possibility for the experience of night as we experience it. And I left it at that. Well, I can't give you the whole thing, but Nassim Haramein, again, I'll put some links in with this. And if you can do it, get his DVD set on Crossing the Event Horizon. I think it's on DVD too. Says that not only is the atom a mini black hole, but that Earth itself is inside of a black hole, and that's why we have the experience of night that we do. Well, you know, how can I prove it? I'm no physicist, but he does a pretty good job of establishing his black hole mechanics, and he has been ahead of science in a number of things. The way we understand physics and astrophysics is simply incorrect. The way we understand that the cosmos, the universe, the galaxy is put together is incorrect in my humble opinion, and it must be and remain humble. However, I can give you some good links. One of my favorites is Thunderbolts of the Gods. Now, I will say it calls itself Part 1, and it's free, and I'll put a link to the whole thing out there for you. And I'll see if I can find Haramein's Event Horizon DVDs, if he's allowed those to be up on the web somewhere. And if I can find them, I'll put that link in too. But in Thunderbolts of the Gods, they propose an electromagnetic basis for the cosmos and for cosmology. And it simplifies things tremendously, just as Haramein's work does. I mean, if you listen to Crossing the Event Horizon, by the time you're done with it, or not even that, Nassim establishes that there's no need for the strong force and the weak force, and indeed you can unify quantum physics and regular physics, and he does a good job of it. And he's got you know, a track record, some published papers. He's got a partner that he works with, Dr. Rausch, I think it is. And their science is pretty good. I mean, he gets a good audience wherever he goes, and he's well worth a listen. His ideas are radical, and they upset the apple cart quite thoroughly. But then, come on, the apple cart wasn't working for us anyway. There's too many things that aren't explained, and the strong force and the weak force are very weak. He calls it physics as you go. You know, when things don't quite add up, you do the calculations for what's missing and you slap a strong force on it or whatever. And it's understandable why science would do that, but surely it must be recognized as only a temporary measure until we come up with what's really there, instead of just these vague calculations for something that's never been measured or found. You know, it's just calculations that fit what's missing. As Nassim says, with the current calculations, it only explains 4% of the mass of the universe. Well, what's wrong with this picture? And so I think we can look to thunderbolts of the gods to fill in the rest. And I think we really have some excitement, and I find joy and delight in Nassim and in Thunderbolts of the Gods. Now, I haven't yet found anything that I can be on board with 100%. So I'm not saying there's ultimate truth in these presentations. But if we want to continue to climb the spiral of understanding and growth, then we have to be willing to not hold on with such a death grip to our current understandings of things. We have to get a lot more flexible, adopt and develop that flexible perspective that I'm so fond of. And all the time in my life, things will come up and show me that which I'm still attached to. And, you know, so I'm not claiming any perfection here, folks. Never have. And it takes all of us. Each of us brings a very important puzzle piece to the table. And so in listening to one another and in being brave enough to share, you know, if you feel like you have something to say, but you don't feel good about putting your mug on a video, well, you can make a video with just an image, with just a picture. And, you know, like they do with the radio programs. I watch the Coast to Coast programs when somebody records it and puts it up as a video on YouTube, and it's just a picture that's there with the audio. So, you know, feel free to do that. It's in our joint conversation that we're putting things together. We've discovered we can't trust the media. We can't trust science and NASA and the rest of it. They do a tremendous amount, they put a tremendous amount of effort into hiding the truth from us. There's really nothing we can trust. We can't trust government or society in general. And we can't trust the whole commercial thing, corporations, because greed runs that. And so there's tremendous manipulation to gain personal advantage that goes on. And so, in a way, it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world out there, and yet there are so many light beings amongst us, and we're getting together, and we find one another on the internet, and we share. And so there are many, many books out there. There's a lot of disinformation as well as information, but with our rising in consciousness, our intuitive abilities are increased. And I wonder, you know, as I believe our DNA, our junk DNA, is being restructured, is coming online, however that's happening. And perhaps for the strands, as they're added, the additional abilities that we're gaining come with that. I don't know. It all makes sense. I really don't believe in miracles as the breaking of any kind of laws. Rather, that someone like Jesus or any master is able to work with laws that we don't yet understand, higher physics, higher dimensional physics, multidimensional physics. And so it is all coming together for us bit by bit, piece by piece. So I hope each one will do your piece and share what your intuition brings to you. You are not separate. No one is separate. There's no such thing as an individual, just like there's no such thing as an objective observer. It doesn't exist. You know, things as we were taught and we grew up believing them to be, throw it out. Just throw it out. Be willing to start again. Be willing to get really creative with it. And give us your piece. What have you to say? Good day. It's empty. And so, as a result of that, the calculation is that all of the mass of the typical human body fits in a thimble and fills it about half full. That's how much solid substance is in your body there. It all fits in a thimble. How interesting, huh? Pretty good evidence for a virtual reality here, my hologram. I did a video where I postulated that there is no night the way we perceive it. It's not possible based on science as we understand it today. Now, just like each atom is 99.99999% empty, and maybe more. Maybe there's a few more nines there. I don't know. I round it down to 5. That Nassim Haramein put out some years ago. I ran across a couple of really neat pieces of information that correlate and integrate so nicely with the way I see things. Or with some of that, I mean, geez, words are so inadequate. Okay, so once upon a time, okay, now I said there could be no night. And I know that sounds crazy, but so does the fact that your body's solid substance fits in a thimble, and yet it's, this is proven. There's a big difference between proof and evidence. Proof is pretty rigidly structured. Most things are just evidence. Hello. Been a few days. Things are changing. So what's new, right? I'm sure they're changing for you too. I'm not the lone stranger here. All right. In just re-listening to the Crossing the Event Horizon DVD